I cannot count the times that over the years that I've been a minister when I've had to stand in front of a congregation and address yet another shooting. And now there's two right here. I didn't know that until a little while ago. And every time I feel this sense of deep frustration and sadness and a sense of stuckness that is, a human response and understandable. And yet, I know that this is not the way it has to be or should be. So I'm calling myself to feel as if gun responsibility is a done deal. That there is a solution already that exists in the mind of God that now floods into our culture and our government and our laws and our hearts. That we have a sense of safety and security that we all should, because it's our divine birthright. So I invite you to join me in knowing that as we move through all of these human emotions that go along with these tragedies. You can't call them anything else. They're just tragic events. But we know that this is not the way that it has to be, and this is not the way that it will be, because we're building a better future and tomorrow through consciousness and through conscious responsibility and action. I've been reading a lot about freedom. And one of the things that I read in the glossary under Ernest Holmes' definition of freedom, it says that freedom does not mean license. It does not mean that I can run a red light or I can shoot somebody or there are responsibilities that go along with our freedoms that we love and that are our birthright and that are the nature of the divine. So, from that place, let's take a nice deep breath and know that all is well, that God is all there is. So, happy August already. And August theme is freedom. Usually we talk about freedom in July because, it's the 4th of July and we're celebrating the freedom of our nation and what have you. But in July we were busy thriving. Because in July we talked about all the ways in which we as a community already thrive. We talked about prayer and teaching and coming together as a community. We were thriving. So in August, we're going to talk about freedom, and quite frankly, any time of the year is a good time to talk about freedom. It's not time sensitive. It is the nature of the divine. So I wanted to mention that the quote that Janet shared with us is one of my favorite quotes. And it is right on the very first page of the Science of Mind text in the thing itself. It is the first thing that Holmes addresses about the nature of the divine, that the nature of the divine is freedom. The life is freedom. And he talks about this often in and through all of his writings and all of his talks about the nature of the divine being freedom. That it is not limited or bound in any way. He said that, the thought of God moves into expression. I'm getting the quote wrong. The thought of God moving into expression must go on forever. The nature of the divine, the nature of God, the thing itself, life, whatever we want to call it, is that of unlimited, unbound freedom and expression to create. And if there are places in our lives where it looks like that freedom is bound or limited in any way, it's because we have put those limits on it. Because we have decided that we are going to be in a small container. So my wonderful son-in-law, Jake, he is just the best son-in-law ever. Couldn't have asked for a better son-in-law. Great husband, great dad. He has a hobby of growing bonsais. Everybody knows what a bonsai is, right? They look like that. Little bonsais. He loves it. He does it all the time. So bonsai plants are actually just regular plants. They're not special plants. They're just regular old plants. Pines and maples, azaleas and rhododendrons. I've even seen bougainvilleas. And the thing about them is they're just regular plants that have been cultivated in a particular way so that they are small, so that they, honestly, so that you stunt their growth. They're restricted. And the way that they're cultivated is that you prune the roots and you prune the leaves and the stems. I'm stumbling all over this. You know exactly what I mean. The roots, the leaves, the trunk, the branches, they all get trimmed down and they grow in very small containers. Like, look at that little grove of maples and look at what a tiny little container it is. So regular plants cultivated in a particular way so that they are not able to reach their full potential. It's a great hobby. Actually, I'm going to take this opportunity to play grandma. Here is, you can't really see that this well, Jake, my son-in-law, is teaching my little 4.5-year-old grandson to grow his own bonsai. He's got a little flowering quince there. It's not very clear. I didn't get a very good picture, but yeah, he's even teaching him how to grow his own little bonsai. So great hobby, great thing to do. You know where you can go out to the safari park? There's this wonderful whole enclosed area with all these beautiful bonsais. I mean, you know, the plants are healthy and strong. They're grown in a particular way, and they can live to be really old, like 100 years or more, and they're fully healthy plants. But you know what? It's a lot of work to do a bonsai. It's a lot of work to prune back the roots and the leaves, and you have to fertilize it in a particular way because there's not enough soil there to really support this plant. It has to be nurtured and tended to. You know what? As human beings, it is a lot of work to restrict our lives, to cut back our roots and our leaves, to put ourselves in little boxes and containers. It is a lot of work. Have you ever tried to play small? Well, for me, it's a lot of work. I don't know about you guys. But, you know, but I do it all the time anyway. I look at the ways in which I restrict my life. You know, my doubts, my worries, my fears. Sometimes I get in that little place and it just feels so comfortable in that comfortable space. I don't want to break out because after all, this is the known and out there is a little scary. So a great hobby, but not a particularly good way to live a human life because we know that the inherent nature of the divine is to expand. It is one of freedom and expression. And that is our nature as well. And to try and have to keep ourselves smaller, to be afraid to move out and stretch out into something new is a lot of work. On that very same page, where we got that beautiful quote that Janet shared with us, there's another quote, which I love. And Holmes said this. He said, to suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create mankind in bondage and leave him or her bound to be bound would be to I'm sorry. Let me do that again. Let's take this. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. To suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create mankind in bondage and leave him or her bound would be to dishonor the creative power that we call God. Isn't that true? Have you ever felt called to something and you know that this is what you should be doing and yet it just seems too scary? You play the what if game. What if this? Well, what if that? And you stay small. It's safe, but you miss out on a lot of the stuff. And it dishonors the very presence of the divine that wants to move through us and as us. So, I've been reading this book called The Happiness Advantage. It's written by a guy named Sean Aker. Anybody know that book? He's a teacher, a professor at Harvard. And he was a student, and then he loved being there so much that he ended up staying on. And he teaches classes in positive psychology. And in the introduction of his book, he talks about the reason that he got into positive psychology was because the traditional psychology classes and courses that he was taking were focusing on what was wrong, on solving these abnormal things and focusing on how we could fix something. He wanted to focus on thrive, on how they were successful, and how they expanded. And as a student, he watched, when he arrived at Harvard, he said he never thought he would get into Harvard. And then when he did, he looked at it as such a gift, that it was such an incredible opportunity for him to be there, that he was very successful as a student and then stayed on to become a professor. And what he said was that he noticed that all of the students that did look at being there as an opportunity and a real gift, those are the ones that were successful. Those were the ones that thrived and did really well. And the students that looked at the stress and got all wrapped up in the competition and how difficult and challenging it was, those were the students that had the most trouble. And so he started doing research and data on this idea. He goes into saying that, as children and all through our lives, really, in one way or another, ways either spoken or unspoken, we learn that once we are successful, we will be happy. Once we're in a relationship, we will feel love. Once we know our wholeness, then we will be healthy, which is actually true. And that he said that formula didn't seem to be playing out with these students that he was observing. So he did all this research, and he collected a bunch of data. And as I was reading that, I'm thinking, as a metaphysician, reading that you have to be happy before you're successful or feel love before you're in a great relationship, I'm just going, well, duh. Any good metaphysician knows that. And that's what metaphysicians throughout the ages have been saying. But anyway, I love the fact that spiritual principle is now being backed up by data and research. Anytime I can find that, I'm just having a great time. So I want to read you something that he writes in his introduction. In his introduction, he writes, if success causes happiness, then every employee who gets a promotion, every student who receives an acceptance letter, everyone who has ever accomplished a goal of any kind should be happy. Well, we know that's not true. He goes on. The formula is broken because it's backwards. More than a decade of groundbreaking research in the fields of positive psychology and neuroscience has proven in no uncertain terms that the relationship between success and happiness works the other way around. We know that happiness is a precursor to success. Isn't that true? So how many of you grew up thinking that once you were successful, you will really be happy? Or once you were in that perfect relationship, boy, life would be good. Once I had that perfect job, I know everything is going to be just awesome. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So, how does it work then? What is it? See, the principle works in every area of our lives. It's not just in success or health or every area of our life responds to this formula of becoming in consciousness what we want to see in form. We know that we create in consciousness what we want to see in form. I have one more quote here from Holmes. We must understand that creation does not mean making something out of nothing. Having optimistic thoughts, creating in consciousness a middle equivalent, a vibrational equivalent, so that we see it in demonstration, is not creating something out of nothing. God is not a nothing. It is a big something. We must understand that creation does not mean making something out of nothing, but means the passing of a substance, the God stuff, into form through the law that is set into motion by the word of spirit. And because we are one with the divine entity, the divine stuff of God, our word is spirit. When we speak our word, when we have a certain pattern of thinking and feeling and being, we are setting law into motion. We are creating something out of something. We are creating our experience. We have the freedom to create our lives. And this works in every area of our lives, everything. You know, we just finished a whole month-long focus on the things that we do well as a community. Because we know that what we put our attention on, we get more of. So we started focusing on everything we already do well so that we could get anything else out of the way and move into the expansion and the fullness of these things. Well, what if we did that with freedom as well? What if we looked at the places in our lives that we're already free? That we already have some freedom. Certainly we have freedom in the way that we perceive the world. That is up to us. We can perceive the world in any way we want. We can perceive it from our victimhood or from our empowerment. We are always at choice about that. Always. We're at choice about how we show up, how we see ourselves, how we see our place in the world, how we're going to show up in every moment. We are at choice about that. We're at choice about what we believe, what we choose to believe. Is it in alignment with this divinity that is within me? Am I believing the goodness of myself connected with the allness of spirit? Because if I am, then I am creating that life of good. That same good, loving, whole, wise self that is always available to me. I have the freedom to do any of that. I have the freedom to do all of that. You know, the other day, actually it was the day before yesterday. Maybe it was yesterday. I'm not sure. Time goes by so fast. So I was talking to my youngest son, Abraham. He is just a little over two years clean and sober now. And he was relaying to me some little life thing that happened, some encounter he had at work, and it was really nothing. It was just kind of a bump. But he was explaining it to me. He was telling me how he handled it and what he did. And I said, oh my God, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. You know, 2 years ago, you would have just reacted instead of thoughtfully, calmly responding. And instead, you've shown up in a sense of responsibility that your actions have consequences on everyone you speak with. You came to this situation with a sense of maturity, of kindness, of compassion. You didn't just go off the handle. You handled this so well. I'm so proud of you. And he stopped for a minute and he said, yeah. And I knew there was something else coming. And he said, yeah, but it's not easy. And I said, no, it's not easy. He said, it doesn't come naturally to me. And I'm like, yeah, I know. He said, that's not exactly how I wanted to show up and wanted to respond. But I had to think about it. I had to pull myself out of being upset and angry, and I had to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It doesn't come easy. As human beings, we want the world around us to be in sync and in alignment with what we think it should be. But it doesn't happen that way. And so we have to pull ourselves into this place of knowing who and what we are, calling ourselves home. Because after all, we are always at choice. And I told him, you know, it gets easier. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And he agreed. And then we had this long conversation. We launched into a long conversation about developing the skills that help us to show up in every moment from that place of connection and not that place of ego and just random response. So here's what I know for sure. Right now, in this moment, this is how I feel. I cannot tell you how I am going to feel in the next moment. But every single moment, I am at choice. Every single moment, I have the opportunity to decide who I am and how I want to show up. You know, when I was teaching elementary school, I used to always say, I had this saying that I always said to other teachers, you know, within structure, there is freedom. So I would always try and create an environment for my students where they felt safe and comfortable and relaxed, where they knew what the rules were and how they fit into this structure. And the same is true for us as adults. Spirit, the divine, the universal order gives us the structure in which we can move freely and make choices at every single moment. Because in every single moment when we are in touch with who and what we are, we will respond in the natural, balanced harmony of that loving power and presence. Now, it doesn't always come easy. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves to pull back there. But that kind of structure is built through practice, through continued practice. That's why even when I don't feel like it, I still get up in the morning and do my spiritual work. I still get up in the morning and I do my meditation. I connect with that power and presence that is within me so that it's familiar and comfortable and I'm one with it. I do my affirmative prayer. I pray for myself and for everyone else in my world that I want to see good come to. I always do that work because then I am grounded in who I am and how I want to show up before I move out into the greater world. That's just the way that it is. You know, I'm kind of known within my family and friends as annoyingly optimistic. You know what I mean? That person who is always looking for the gift in every situation. Oh yeah, it's a gift. You know, annoyingly optimistic. I'm always looking for a new way to see something so that we can move into a change and create something new. I'm always cheer up. You know, it's going to be okay. Annoyingly optimistic. And I'm like that almost all the time. As soon as my feet hit the floor, I'm usually singing, you know, what a beautiful morning, or, you know, something about the great day. Annoyingly optimistic. And that, I'm like that until I'm not. Until something happens and I'm down, or I'm frustrated, or I'm angry, or I'm human, I'm whatever it is, and even depressed. I'm there until I'm not, because I don't know how I'm going to feel in the next moment. My tendency is to be optimistic because I feel like I'm setting an intention through my optimism. So I try and stay there, but I'm not always there. And sometimes we need help. And sometimes it's okay to reach out and ask for help. Our friends, our family, our practitioners, our ministers, even professional medical help. You know, a therapist or a psychiatrist, these are places we need to go when we need help. And then there are also things that we can put in our tool belt for those times when we don't know exactly how to respond and we have to take a moment and breathe in and think about it. So while we are blessed to be in this community where it's easy and encouraged to reach out for help when we need it, we also prepare ourselves for the moment to moment to moment task, if you will, opportunity, gift of being human. So I often say affirmations, I'd stop and I'd do gratitude stuff, and I ran across this idea that I'm going to share with you that is simply to, okay, I had a couple more things. Smile. It's simply to smile. You know, smiling changes our physiology. Did you know that? There's this great Balinese smiling meditation. I don't know if any of you have ever done it, where you go through your entire body and imagine every organ and every system of your body smiling, because it feels good and it changes your physiology and it's contagious. Try smiling at everybody you walk by. They'll smile at you and go, oh, I wonder why that idiot's smiling at me. Not seriously. Smiling is contagious. It's a wonderful way to put us in that same kind of attitude and sense of gratitude that we do when we give thanks for things, which is open and big and moves us into the freedom to create something new. So I invite you to smile at everybody around you all week. I did want to share this. I realized that I wanted to. I've also been reading this other book I always have my Kindle on my nightstand at night, and if I wake up in the middle of the night, I have a gazillion books on there, and it's always fun to just pick something up. And I picked this one book up by Christian Larson, who is an old-time New Thought author. I think this book on Kindle was $1.50. It's called The Pathway of Roses, and in it, he says this wonderful thing. I kind of had to translate it because, you know, anybody that writes around the early 1900s had that old-timey language. And so he said, to establish life in the physical plane is to be guided almost entirely by feeling and emotion. But no feeling is absolutely true unless it originates in the soul. And what he's talking about with the soul here is that authentic self, that wise self that is connected to God on all sides. I think Ernest Holmes tells us that it shouts at us from every angle. God does. So I love this because, you know, when I want to, like my son, hey, when he was telling me he wanted to respond in a certain way, and he pulled himself back to the soul. And then he goes on to say this, which is just beautiful, I think. Oh, I love this line. When life is established in the spiritual state, connected to God, the physical ceases to be a troubled sea of conflicting emotions. Instead, the physical becomes an orderly expression of the pure, wholesome life of the soul, and the physical becomes a world of the richest thought, the most sublime feeling, and the highest mental enjoyment. To cut to the chase, really what he's saying is that when we are connected with the all that is, when we are awash in it, established in the life of God, who we are, then everything that we demonstrate from that point on is aligned with this presence. And it's beautiful. And even when there's trouble, we know where to go. We're in that structure. I just wanted to share that with you. So smile. That's your homework, is to smile at everyone. And here's my invitation to you. Look at your life and notice where you already have freedom. I already have freedom to show up in my own perspective. I already have freedom to change my perspective because every moment is a fresh new moment, and every moment is creative, and I am a choice in every one. Look where you're bonsaiing your life. Where am I putting myself back? Where am I putting myself in a small container when I am not able in that small container to live my full potential? Where are you doing that? And then smile. Smile at yourself in the mirror. Smile at your dog. Smile at the guy who pulls up to you in the street at the red light. Smile at everybody to change your physiology and to move into a new way of being and to recognize that you are the light of the world, that you are magnificent in every way. So let's pray. Taking a nice deep breath in, coming into the realization of our divine nature. God is. God is. God is big, bold, beautiful. God is quiet and gentle, and ease. God is peace. God is wisdom. God is free. God is ever creating itself and knowing itself more deeply through its creation, and we are its creation. In every way, we are the expression of the divine. In every way, we are the expression of the one life of God, which is forever and ever expanding. So I speak my word for and about each and every person that is present here in this room and each and every person who is not. I speak my word for our beloved country. I speak my word for our beloved planet Earth. I speak my word for life itself, that there is an opening, a shift in consciousness, a new way of being and feeling and living that knows the truth of its being, that is full to overflowing of love, of peace, of generosity, of wholeness, of community coming together in an enlightened way, of knowing itself in a collective consciousness of support and love, of generosity and peace. So I just give great thanks for the shift in consciousness for life itself, to know itself more fully. And I revel in that. I sit in it. And I know that as we set these words, because we are spirit incarnate into the natural law, that they return to us. They have no choice. So for this and so much more, I give thanks. I allow it to be. I let Spirit do Spirit's work, and together we say, and so it is.